So good evening, everyone. It's 6:01. We're going to go ahead and get started. We are so excited that you're joining us to learn about College Now. This program is a partnership among all of our area school districts and Harper College. And with me here today are two other individuals that are joining us on the panel. First, I am Dr. Lazaro Lopez. If you can go on to that next slide. Jennifer. I am the executive director of overseeing both career pathways and the foundation. I am the former associate superintendent for teaching and learning for High School District 214, and I sit on the Nexus council who worked on putting this program together. And I'll let my other two panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jennifer Greer. I'm the early college program supervisor in District 214. Also part of the team that has put this together, and I am so excited to share this with you all this evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm Dr. Jamie Reverts, and I'm the Dean for Liberal Arts over at Harper College, and I'm very excited to be partnering on this new program for families.
We're very fortunate to have Dr. Rewerts with us tonight to answer questions from Harper College's perspective. So, as we begin, the first question is, what is College Now? So, College Now is this partnership between District 211, District 214, District 220, and Harper College, offering students in our entire region a chance to earn both their high school diploma and an Associate of Arts degree by the end of their high school senior year. While this is not a program that is unique to this regions, there are other community colleges in the area, McHenry Community College, one of them, and Elgin Community College, that have begun these programs as well. So we are learning from others that have already began this work, and we're excited to offer it now in our community. Um, Throughout this session, you'll notice that there is a Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom feature there. You'll be able to add questions there. There's already quite a few in there, so that at the conclusion of these specific slides, we'll be able to respond to your questions. Also, you will learn that there is a College Now website on Harper's website where there is a frequently asked questions that we receive both from these sessions and questions that have already come in are being answered on that page. And my hope is that we'll be able to get to all of those questions this evening. The first question that I've been getting, specifically as College Now has been reported on in the community, is how does this specifically differ from Harper Promise and the Harper Promise Scholarship? Many of you have learned about Harper Promise for many years, and my hope is that all of your students are enrolled. But there is a difference. College Now and Harper Promise really are separate programs. Harper Promise is a scholarship program that was begun by Harper College that begins after high school graduation. While College Now is really an opportunity to earn that associate's degree while you're still in high school. And so College Now starts junior year of high school with students enrolling during their sophomore year. Uh, just so that it's fully transparent, students in college now are not able to use Harper Promise for any tuition expenses during the program, although those tuition expenses you'll learn are really quite limited. And credits earned before entering Harper count towards any of the 60 credit hour limit that the Promise program does pay for students. And that includes dual credit, AP credits, or any courses students are taking during this program if for some reason the student does not complete. So why College Now? And why is this program an opportunity for your students? Well, one is it really does accelerate learning. It provides your student an opportunity to earn a college degree while they're still in high school. And there are still many indicators that show that this is a significant step towards economic mobility and really getting a head start on a student's career path. It really does save you thousands of dollars in tuition. Whether that your student would have typically attended a four-year university at those tuition rates or attending a local community college, it really does save a significant amount of money on tuition. They're also able to explore college life while they're still in high school with the support of who they know and what they know. So they still have a high school counselor. They're still involved in high school activities. They are still connected to their friends at the school and attending homecoming and prom. But part of their day, or most of their day during senior year, is spent on the college campus. And what this does is it really does build that confidence and a sense of accomplishment that they can do it, that they are a college student. Now, what I will share for High School District 214 students is that our students do have a lot of opportunities to earn early college credit and dual credit, whether that's through advanced placement coursework or early college. So even if your student chooses not to persist or not to participate in college now, they still have a lot of opportunities to earn early college credit while they're a student with us. In fact, the average student does graduate from High School District 214 with about 15 college credits, and many graduate with much more. This is another opportunity for students that really is going to be a personal decision. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Greer, who's going to talk about the student eligibility for this program.
Yes, thank you. So we looked at eligibility regionally. So us, along with 220 and 211, share the same requirements and expectations for students for College Now. So this is a program for students who can handle college level work. And so we are looking for students who meet the following criteria. Their attendance is at least a minimum of a 90%. Their GPA is a minimum unweighted 2.0 GPA with no D's or F's. For English, they've completed 2 years with a grade of B or better. For math, we're looking that they've completed Algebra 1 and Geometry with a grade of B or better. In science, 2 years with a grade of C or better. And they'll have to meet college readiness requirements in English and math by April of their sophomore year. And for those wanting to take a world language, they'll need to complete additional placement testing in order to take it at Harper, which we'll circle back more about the world language in a bit. For program expectations, the application is now open, so sophomores will complete that in the next couple of days. And once students are admitted, we do expect that they earn a C or better in all of their courses during their junior and senior year to remain in the program. So how does it work? So you'll see in these images below that juniors will spend their mornings at Harper campus taking the college courses, and then they'll return to their high school in the afternoon for required classes and activities there. This blended schedule really helps students stay on track for graduation. It gives them a taste of the college experience, and it provides that continued access to high school support with their counselors and their other team in the building. For their senior year, they'll take all their classes at Harper College. They will still have access to their high school support services, so their counselors as well, and they can still participate in extracurricular activities. All this also keeps them connected to their high school community while also being fully getting that full experience on a college campus. And I'll also mention that not only can students participate in extracurricular activities in their high school campus, but they are encouraged to also get involved at Harper College. Although they cannot get involved with sports, they're encouraged to check out some clubs and other programs that they might want to get involved in.
So how much does this program cost? The program includes college coursework, support services, both on the Harper College campus as well, obviously at the high school campus, and textbooks and program materials. The district transportation is provided to Harper College from the high school campus if that's needed. However, I do want to make an important note here. Classes at the Harper College are starting earlier than our regular schedule. So that means families would need to facilitate transportation to the high school so that they're able to depart there in time to get to classes at Harper by 8 o'clock in the morning. Students will participate in 2 years of college coursework, 4 semesters, and the cost is really the same as what families are paying now for their dual credit coursework. It works out to about the same. which is $250 per semester for a total tuition of $1,000. So it is quite a bargain. Students that are approved for a fee waiver will not be required to pay any program fees.
So for students' course schedules, here is what this will look like for a student who is not going to take a world language as part of college now. So on the left side, you'll see the junior year. Their fall semester, semester one, is made up of 12 credit hours, and their semester two is 15 credit hours. And I do want to note that their senior year, a fall, is 17 credit hours. While the average is 15 credit hours for a college freshman, this is a heavy load. And so I do want to note that this is for students who are ready for college level material. The cool thing though, for students who do not want to take a world language is that they have two spots to take electives, and we are going to work with the student to have them in a class that they are excited about and possibly a future major they may want to explore. And so that is an opportunity there for them to do so. And then their spring of senior year is 16 credit hours, which is another pretty heavy course load. And then for those wanting to take a world language, here is what this looks like. Pretty similar. Um, Again, in the fall, it is heavy. It's it's fairly spread out across all 4 semesters. There is room for one elective in their senior year fall. So again, we will work with the student to allow them to explore a future major they're interested in. And as far as the math class, I do want to address, depending on what a student's goals are for after graduation from high school, we can work with them to be in a math class that may better fit a bachelor's degree that they're looking to pursue. So we can have that conversation, and we are also open to a language outside of Spanish if your student is interested in another language at Harper. I will note that this may also depend on the number of students we get for what time this class happens. So a lot of the language classes may happen at night, but if we get a good number of students interested in a language outside of Spanish, we may be able to offer something during the day. So I'll reiterate, while we're not sure what that looks like, we may be able to work with a student who wants to take a language other than Spanish.
And Jennifer, before you move from the schedule, there were a lot of questions in the chat already that I related to the schedule. Jamie, did you see that too? Do you want to address that?
I did. Why don't you go ahead, Dr. Lopez,
Well, I'll
address those,
start
and
it.
then
You
I'll,
can
I'll
add. So,
Yeah, I was just going to say that, a lot of folks are asking about flexibility in the schedule. And one of the things that I think is really important to know is that we work together really closely as a team to make sure that these specific group of classes meet the high school requirements for the state of Illinois and also meet the requirements for an Associate of Arts degree at Harper College, which again would have transportability, transfer to other places, especially within the state. But I saw a lot of questions about, well, could we change this? What about that? And the answer is probably not, especially not this first time through. We know that this set of classes were carefully designed. So there are a couple of spots where there's room for, as Jennifer mentioned, an elective. There's room for maybe a different language, but no, these are going to be necessary to meet both of those requirements.
yes, that's good, Jamie. And I was going to iterate the same thing that uh, one of the pieces to keep in mind is what we're doing is, to the extent possible, we're going to cohort junior year. So all the students across the region that are high school students on Harper's College campus during junior year, our goal is for them to be together in these college courses, so they're not alone with senior year possibly spreading out a little more as some of the courses uh, um, maybe some slight variations because of the electives. But for the most part, we're cohorting students. So that way they're not alone on that college campus. So it is important to understand that this is not a flexible program, that as Dr. Rewert said, that it is intended to meet all of the requirements of both the high school and the college. And you'll notice one of the questions I saw had to do with physical education. And you'll notice physical fitness is their part of the schedule. Uh, the KIN 100 course, Kinesiology 100. And so there is physical fitness still required. But the goal is for the students to meet all of these requirements in both institutions so that they can complete in both areas. And we only have a couple more slides left, and then we'll go back to the Q&A in just a moment. And that is, there is a website, College Now, and as I said there, you'll see frequently asked questions. You'll see student schedule there. You'll see lots of general information about the program, and you'll also have live links to the application. So that is where you will find everything there. And when we send you all of those families that are receiving emails from us, we'll ensure that there's a link there to the Harper College website in that follow-up email, as well as a copy of this video. And there are some dates to keep in mind as we work through this process.
So how and when can I apply? We're excited. Today is the day the application opens. Um, so it is live right now, and it is open through October 15th. And so it gives about students 2 weeks to apply, and they can expect to hear back about their status on October 22nd. And so once a student finds out of their acceptance and potential acceptance into the program, they will have until Monday, November 3rd, to accept or decline their spot in the program. All right, so what happens after you are accepted? So your course registration is going to be finalized in December. And then in January, there will be an orientation held at Harper College that parents are also very much encouraged to attend with their student. In April, that we will do any course placement testing that is necessary for students. And then August is when everything will start. That's when juniors will start spending half their day at Harper.
And so I do want to transition to our Q&A, and I wanted to go back to the schedule because someone was asking about how, you know, will a student feel disconnected from the school? And it's not represented here, but in our mock schedule, the way this is laid out, during junior year, students will be on the Harper College campus in the morning, and then they'll be on our campus in the afternoon. And senior year, the way it's presented here, you are taking all your classes at Harper College. However, the way it's been designed, and there could be some exceptions if someone's deciding to take a different language or a different math, we did design it where students will be done. And Dr. Rewerts, you can remind me. I thought by noon or 1 o'clock is what the schedule was showing. And my understanding also, there is some free time or some Fridays, I believe, have more flexibility. And so there was individuals in the chat that I want to make sure that I respond to. So students that are in music, students that are in some of these related activities will still be able to get back to the high school in order to participate those. But it is student choice, meaning that there's flexibility. When you're a college student, you have a lot more flexibility in your schedule. And so students will be able to choose in those afternoons, am I going to stay and study on campus? Am I going to the library? Am I getting additional resource and help? Because it's a very challenging schedule. Or they might decide that they're going back because they're still in band or in choir or in orchestra or in some other performing arts or some other activity that they want to still be participating in. But it is not like senior year you're on campus taking classes from morning to late afternoon. For the majority, for most, unless you're choosing a different language class or maybe a math class that is not part of the structure that was developed. So I'm hoping that's helpful. And if we can all sort of maybe I'll start at the top with these questions and see who can best answer them. And I will say that this concludes sort of the general presentation. Feel free to stay on or jump off at any time. as we go through and answer as many of these questions as we're able to. And we'll stay on here and answer them, and we'll try to group them as much as possible. Um, there's a question about what type of student this program is geared towards. And I think I would ask, I'll initiate, but if either of you have something to add. But what I will say is this is a very personal decision. However, the student is somebody who is academically prepared to take on this level of rigor and is interested in accelerating their path towards a degree. Um, there are a lot of students that fit that, but it is a choice. There are things that that a student is going to make by taking advantage of this opportunity, by not necessarily being at their home school for part of the day junior year or the majority of the day senior year. And so it's geared towards students that are academically prepared, that feel they want this challenge and they want to accelerate their path towards a degree. But keep in mind, you don't have to choose this path. They're still going to have lots of opportunities to access early college credit at High School District 214. Um, this is a question that I'm not sure that I know the answer to, and what we will do is we will add questions that we're not able to answer, hopefully to the FAQ, or we will try to respond to you. Because this one has to do with, are students considered first year or transfer students upon graduation? Now, go ahead, Dr. Rewerts.
We had this conversation actually today, and I talked also with our transfer specialist here at Harper, and the answer is it depends. The answer is probably it depends on the school in which you're transferring to. But the good news is that we would have our advisor. We have a dual credit advisor that's going to be sort of dedicated to this entire program, and we can check. But there are some schools that, yes, will still bring you in with junior status, but as a freshman, and you would still be eligible for things like freshman scholarships. But then there are some schools where that would not be the case. So we would really have to just work with you if you knew where you were headed, or you had a few schools you wanted us to check on. And maybe we'll build some sort of a crosswalk that shows what we've learned about the particular schools.
Yeah, and can you also add, there's a lot of questions about credits being able to transfer, specifically even like to overseas universities. I think I know the answer to that, but I'll let you since you're representing Harper
It's
College.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, is it depends, right? And so we do our best to always have to follow things like the Illinois Articulation Initiative that makes sure that our credits are going to transfer as seamlessly as possible. But especially for overseas institutions, the answer again would be it depends. So we would have to check. But again, we have staff and specialists that can help do that for us.
Yeah. So you're going to want to check with those institutions and speak
Mhm.
with the staff there
Mhm.
at Harper College related to that. There's a question about, so there's some of our students who are currently in college Spanish 1 and 2, and they're wondering how will we address those students that perhaps are already in college taking college Spanish 1 or 2 because they're advanced.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so we built this pathway for a student that might need to start at the beginning, because if you needed to, you could. You could start in the very beginning and in 4 semesters have your way through the level 4 202. But depending on where you're at, we will do a placement test for you, just an intake. And it's actually not a test, it's just an oral interview where you have a conversation with someone. And then after that, they would place you appropriately. And the great news is if you get to start a little bit higher or further along in the Spanish sequence, that just means you'll have a couple of more open slots for electives where you can do a little bit more of that exploring.
Great. And there's a couple of questions specifically related to medical school or Harper's RN program or BSN programs. And is this a good path either for medical school or if a student's interested in Harper's RN or BSN programs?
I'm going to say that we had a conversation about this too this morning. And while it's not a bad path, I will admit that this program is probably less helpful when you're looking at STEM careers, because that's where you're going to want maybe an associate of science. We talked about wanting maybe different math. There's not a lot of variability. And so, again, there's not a lot of room to put in some of those things that you want. I would say that if that's something you're interested in, you can still reach out to us. We can talk to you one on one. But really think about if you're a student who wants to study business, education, communication, social sciences, psychology, sociology, those places where you can use an Associate of Arts degree. Those are going to be really, really the best for this. But as far as the nursing program and other things, it would be helpful in some regards, but it you would still need to come and there's no room for the nursing classes, for example, in nursing, right? In this very tight pathway that we just showed you. So even though you could do this program and get your general education requirements that are part of the nursing program, you get those done, but you wouldn't be able to, you'd still have to come and do more education at Harper. You wouldn't be able to walk out with your associate for nursing.
I love, we have so many great questions that are on here. So I appreciate these. There was a general question just about at the end of the program, will the students have a degree that is transfer or is it just credits? The purpose of the program is for a student to graduate with an Associate of Arts degree, and an Associate of Arts degree is a transferable degree. Um, so the goal is for them to have a degree. Is it possible for a student not to successfully complete all the courses or for things to happen? Yes, but it's designed for students to graduate, which is really exciting. There's a lot of questions looking like around, is there a limit to the number of students that can participate? And I can answer that. The reality is this, so this is the first year we're doing it. We created a limit by school district of about of 50 students. And we did that for the purpose of planning. We don't know if we're going to get 50 students from every district or if we are going to get 10 students from every district or if there's going to be 200 students that are going to be applying. We don't know what the response will be, in part because we have such a robust opportunity for early college credit in all of these school districts in the region that have partnered with Harper College, that it may not be something that everyone sees as a necessary path. But there is a cap for this year that we've committed to of 50 students as we sort of build the program, grow, and learn from this first year. So we appreciate everyone understanding that. There is another question, meaning is this beneficial for students who want to study abroad? I do want to share, and if you've got a response to that, feel free, Dr. Rewerts, but a lot of the questions specific to an individual student, really, it's a conversation with your counselor and with the family and align to what that student's pathway interest is. What are they interested in doing when they graduate from high school? And it is going to be a personal decision. I don't know if you had anything specific around studying abroad, or is there study abroad opportunities at Harper College?
I think one thing is that if you had all of this sort of done really early in your, career, your career, you'd have more room and space and time when you transferred to your next institution. And I want to also just add that, there's some other questions about how likely are four-year colleges to accept credits earned from this program? You will walk out with an Associate of Arts degree, and that is a complete general education package in the state of Illinois, and that will transfer as such. So yes, especially you actually have better luck with transfer being seamless when you finish a degree. When you leave without having finished it, sometimes then things do get a little bit murky and maybe something will fall off the table or you took too many credits in this category and they don't count. But if you follow this program and get this complete package, it's a pretty good solid seamless transfer. I also, can we talk a little bit about a lot of questions around AP and dual credit and what would happen with those and how those would count? Um, I saw one like, I took AP microeconomics, would that count? We have a crosswalk of scores that we accept for AP credit and what classes those fulfill. So yes, if for example, you had AP credit already, maybe from earlier in your high school career, yeah, we will accept and honor those just like we would any incoming student at Harper College. And then would you have the opportunity to still take AP? Remember, in the afternoons, your junior year, you will still be taking dual credit classes at your high school. So yes, there will still be opportunities for dual credit. It will be dual credit at the high school. And then if you were to take an AP class somehow or you had one, yeah, we'll honor those. And again, might give you another elective slot that would open up for you to explore something else if you had some sort of existing credit.
Okay. There's specific questions again around classes, like if, can I take, what if I wanted to do physics instead of bio? What Do you have anything else
No,
to add? Yeah.
probably not. I mean, Jen, can you kind of help recollect our thinking here? But we had to pick these certain classes because of what they
What
require in the Illinois high school and what we require in the various categories to help you complete that associate's degree. So, in that example with physics, probably not. No, because it would leave something lacking, I think, for your high school graduation requirement.
Yeah. Here's a good question that I'm sure I've seen and I know that we've discussed this. There are some students that either have a 504 plan or have some required accommodations. Can you discuss Harper's approach to that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have many students who come from high school after finishing their IEP or their 504 with the high school, and we have an office called the ADS, the Access and Disability Services Office, and we grant accommodations to our students. So you would get an advocate, a team, you could work together with those people, and then your instructors are very familiar with working with students who need accommodations. Just depends on what the accommodation is, but we do have that service available at the college. Mhm.
Great, thank you. Um, so the question is, and I would open this up, Jennifer, maybe your conversations with counselors or at the college. So what happens if they start and it's just too difficult? How are we planning to manage that?
Sure. So we will need a student to finish through the semester. It would be really difficult for a student to get started in the program and realize, maybe a couple weeks in or halfway through that, if they no longer want to continue, it would be difficult to put them in classes in the building, especially starting that late, and they may get W's on their college transcript. And so we are happy to have a conversation with the student and revisit everything with them, but it would have to take place at the end of a semester.
But can we speak a little bit of sort of drop dates and those kinds of limitations at the beginning of the semester? I know it's a tight window, but um, do you have any more specifics around that, around how much time? Because what if a student starts and within 2 or 3 days decides, I'm not sure this is for me? And maybe we also talk about what we're going to do to help kids be ready, sort of like the programs, Dr. Root, that you're looking at Harper to do to help orient students?
Sure. So you want me to just speak broadly about supports for students?
About
Yeah, we
support
have.
and how we're going to bring them on campus. And then aren't there specific drop deadlines or deadlines that are associated with
Sure.
college
And I
plan?
can let, yeah, I can let Jen talk about that part. But I would say as far as supports, I hear some other things too, like will my son be lonely? Is there, do I have to study on campus? There are, and if you go to the website, you can see a schedule that's blocked out with the exact times of the day, right? Saying like from 8 to 9:15, you'll have this class block, and then from 9:30 to 10:45, you'll have this class block. There are some open sections, and in those, we are already creating a space for College Now students. It will think of it like a lounge. There'll be a hangout space and then there'll be a study space. So you would be able to have study hall like you maybe normally would, but you'll have it at Harper and you can have access to the programs you need. It's also right there. We've got our library. So you'd have the tutors, you'd have the writing center. All of that would be at your disposal to be able to get help if you were struggling, if you were finding out like, hey, this is getting kind of tough. We have your advisor you could talk to, tutors, writing center, and as well as counselors, and you'd have two sets of people both at the high school and at the college to be able to work with. um, let's see, what else did you want me to answer? Oh, Jen, do you want to talk about specific drop dates?
Yeah. So just like college students have specific dates when they're in their semester at college, our dual credit students are no different. And so these students, what that means is when a student starts a dual credit, or in this case, the College Now program, when they're at Harper campus, there are certain deadlines in which if they drop a class, if there is, I don't know if penalty is the right word, but a permanent mark on their transcript. So within, I think Jamie, it's maybe like 10 days after the start of Harper's semester is when that's essentially their drop deadline. So if you are still enrolled after that time, you're still charged for tuition. And anytime after that, if you drop a course, you may have a few more weeks until you can get a W on your transcript. And usually that date is around, I think, like mid-October. And so if you drop a class after the W deadline, there is a permanent W on a transcript. And so if a student is wanting to no longer be a part of the program, it is one of the things to consider depending on what part of the semester we're at. If a student does drop a course, there may be a W there. And so that is a discussion to have with their counselor and other support staff to see if that is the right fit for that student.
Yeah. So there were a lot of questions again around healthcare and CNA, and I highlight this only because I know we have such a phenomenal healthcare pathway in partnership with Harper College. We're graduating 300 students a year that are earning their CNA certification, and we have students working in full apprentices at Northwest Community Hospital and long-term care facilities all over the region getting paid. So there's a lot of questions. My students still do these things that we've heard other students do, and participate in this program? I will tell you, it would be very difficult. It is a different path, and I think it was addressed a little bit earlier, specifically around STEM or in the healthcare pathway. Um, we have a lot of opportunities already. And in fact, students that are in the CNA program and are looking at pursuing healthcare, not just becoming a nurse, many of them are actually already on Harper College's campus taking human anatomy and physiology. And so that is already occurring. They're just not taking this full program to this extent, but they are already on that Harper College campus. So I wanted to address that. And then there's also a lot of questions around sports and practices. I think you'll probably want to speak with your counselor and your coach. I wasn't aware to the extent of how many practices in the morning could conflict. I will say that we're scheduling classes on Harper's campus are scheduled to begin at 8 a.m. And so I'm not sure how early, because our typical day starts around 8:20. And so I don't know how early those sports begin. And also thinking of if you're going to transport your student to Harper, how long that would take, or if they're going to be taking the bus from the high school. I would expect the buses are going to be leaving our high schools around 7:15 in the morning to get to Harper in time, between 7:15 and probably 7:30, somewhere in that window. So hopefully that helps you try to understand if that's a conflict or not. I'm trying to keep track and check off as we answer questions so we can get back to them. Um, can you answer this question? Is a student able to use this to move on to a bachelor's degree?
Yeah, are you asking if this is a good degree to get prior to your bachelor's degree?
The
Guess I want to
question,
make sure I'm answering.
yeah, the question is the student able to take 2 more years at a university to complete their bachelor's degree after they do that?
Yeah, they're going to need to actually. So you'll have finished your first 2 years, and then you're looking at another 2 years for sure to finish your bachelor's degree. But again, theoretically, you would transfer in potentially with being sort of like a junior, the equivalent of your coursework having started in junior year. So does that answer the question?
I think so. And
Okay.
and I think some of these I'm seeing we've addressed sort of, that we're going to cohort the students are going to be with other college now students, although we don't know how many are going to be signing up at this moment. We'll know obviously more as the weeks move ahead. Um, there is a question around if a student is not able to, does not meet the requirements for college now, are they able to still continue being in Harper Promise? And I don't know that I probably can answer that. And yes, as long as they continue to meet the requirements of Harper Promise, that is still, it would be an option for them. And feel free to view through these questions. I'm trying to get through them as quickly as I can.
Yeah,
Uh,
I am too, and I'm typing in answers to ones that are easy and sort of an isolated kind of a question. I'm trying to look and see if there are other themes that we have not addressed.
Yeah, and more
Um,
questions about transfer. Again, I will share with you. You always want to reach out to the four-year institution. Harper College is a public institution in the state of Illinois. If you're attending a public institution in the state of Illinois, those are the easiest to transfer between. Most of even our private universities in the state, most, not all, are part of the Illinois Articulation Initiative, and courses are recognized and these degrees are recognized. But you always want to check with the institution you're looking at or your specific program to see how those courses or degrees transfer. And I know there's resources on Harper College's campus in order to do that.
I
Taking
think the
into
biggest thing as I scroll back through here is just to remember this is going to be an associate in arts degree. So you're right. Many people are asking about an associate of science, and this is not an associate of science. You could start with your associate of arts, though, and then when you go to your four-year institution, you could end up with a bachelor of science if you're willing to take those science classes that you need at your four-year institution. So I don't want you to think that once you take an associate of arts that you're stuck in the like a Bachelor of Arts degree. You're not necessarily. It might require a little bit of extra coursework in science that you didn't take in the first 2 years, but there's still this sort of sense that you could be quite far ahead, right, in many of the requirements that you need, and you would have a degree. And I think that's important to remember too, is that if you finish this, you will have a degree, which guarantees that you have some sort of credential that you'd be able to take with you wherever you go.
Correct. I was just trying to respond to type some answers there to some questions as I go through. Do students take high school classes plus the schedule as well? No, the schedule is basically a combination. If you go back, Jennifer, real quick to the schedule, you'll notice that we put asterisks next to courses that you're actually taking at the high school. So you're taking college speech at their home high school in District 214. You're taking college algebra at the home high school. You're taking English composition at the home high school. So you're taking those courses while you are with us. The other courses you're taking at Harper College. Um,
Jennifer, can you answer the question about where lunch will occur? I saw that was a couple of questions. It was about travel time and lunch. I would recommend, if you're really interested, go to the Harper website for College Now and click on the link that says the schedule for District 214. And it'll show you that in your junior year, you travel back to the high school from 10:50 to 11:07. So that might help give people some better orientation of what the day would look like. I know we talked earlier about in senior year, when are you done? You would be done with your last class your senior year at 12:15, so just after noon. And then there's an open study time, and then there's return back to your home high school. So I think it might just help everyone have a better picture if you could see that laid out in the day.
And I did put the link in the chat for everybody to see to that Harper College Now website. There's a question around eligibility, and are you looking at how students are doing in their classes during freshman year? And yes, if you go back to the eligibility slide, you'll see that they're looking at our students earning all A's and B's in their academic core of English and math, that they're earning a C or better in science. So those are the requirements that are there. Um, there's a question around, is Italian one of the language? I don't know if you mentioned the languages that you offered Harper College.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I answered it in the chat for
Oh, you did?
someone. I think it was a question around Polish, actually. And currently, Harper's world languages are Spanish, French, German, Japanese, and American Sign Language. So we can accommodate students in any of those pathways, but outside of that, we are not currently teaching those languages.
Yeah, there is a question. So what if a student, here's, there's a question. So what if I'm accepted, but I don't meet the college placement standards in April? Which is a great question. So we have mapped out the students that we think, and we've worked with the counselors that we're projecting for that we have believe that there's a good likelihood you'll be able to meet the benchmarks just from national data norms and performance. Because students in April will be they'll be taking the ACT. And those ACT scores are the benchmarks we're using for placement into college level English and math courses based on that performance. And so we're projecting forward the students that we believe will be able to meet those benchmarks. But there's always exceptions. There's lots of students that I've spoken to that said, "Wow, I didn't think when I took the ACT freshman year would matter, so I didn't really try," and their performance doesn't really match their aptitude, which is totally understandable. And so the reality is we can review the students' grade performance. And we also looked at students who are in an honors track uh, that maybe weren't necessarily connected to some standardized tests they took. Because there are students that are on the honors track and maybe, again, freshman year when they took that ACT, didn't believe that it had any significant value and maybe, didn't do as well as they would have. I get, yeah, and I think we've answered all the questions around STEM. So aviation would be part of STEM. That this probably you probably have better options, particularly in aviation. We have classes. Uh, Although Harper has begun a program in with aviation maintenance, we do offer pilot ground school 1 and 2 as part of our program at High School District 214 at Chicago Executive Airport.
I will mention with that, there are a few questions about the capstone program. So like PAC, Med Academy, Aviation Academy, students would not be able to do a capstone program in addition to this due to the senior year schedule because they interfere.
Yeah.
Can we address the PE answer again, about waiving PE? I think, Jen, you know, that KIN 100 is serving as the PE requirement. And if you were all to waive it at the high school, it would create a bit of an issue on our end at Harper because those credits were counting toward the number that were needed, I think.
Yeah,
Am I
I think
correct?
the question is, are we waiving it at the high school? So what it is there is not a credit requirement for a high school diploma in the state of Illinois of PE. There's a requirement that you're enrolled in physical education, but it is not a graduation requirement with the number of credits you're earning. Um, However, it is serving at Harper College for the associate's degree a requirement, both as far as a requirement of degree and for the number of credits you need in order to earn the Associate of Arts. So it is serving both spots. And there is a question about being 50 spots and who gets chosen. Um, I will tell you, I have very little expectation that we will have 50 students as we and I almost feel like you should go back to the dates of how this works because there was a couple of questions about there. Um, the students will be notified of potential acceptance into the program because they still may not have met all of the prerequisites or the eligibility requirements. And then there's still going to be a window all the way through November where you basically have time to think about it and say, okay, is this really what I want? Um, Even though we're eligible. Um, we don't expect that at that point there's going to be more than 50 students. Now, the other thing I will tell you is that we've discussed as a region, if one district only has 20 students and another one has 60, we're looking at 150 students in the region. We are going to work to make sure that students that meet the eligibility that really want to do this are able to access the program. We're going to do our best to do that. Um,
I also want to mention with that in the application, there's a personal statement, and we really encourage students to put
good.
time into telling us how this program aligns with their goals, why they want to do it. It really gives us an idea of how we can support the student and if we believe this is a good fit for the student. So please put the time into writing your response.
Yeah. And again, I think there was a question around lunch. It's basically there is a built-in time of travel time coming back to the campus and also lunch in the middle of the day when you're leaving Harper during junior year. And senior year, you're expecting you're going to be able to have lunch there at Harper College prior to coming back if you, unless, even if you decide to come back to the school district. And yes, the program is specifically open to sophomores to apply now for their junior year. There is question, meaning are there students that are currently interested they can speak to? The reality is we've not done this before here in this region, so there aren't. So this is the first time students that this region and Harper College is doing this. It is going to be a learning experience for all of us to ensure that it's successful. So I would imagine during the orientation, students would get a chance to meet other students that are freshmen and probably younger to talk about what that experience would be like. I imagine that's part of the program that they will be able to participate in.
Yeah, we talked about there'll probably be a first round of orientation that would happen probably in late January, early February, that would involve parents and students coming together and learning information about the program where we could answer even more questions that will come up at that time. And then there would be something additional for students only probably in May, so that they could be prepped and ready and make sure they're good to go for an August start.
Yeah, there's a couple of good questions here. One is about open study. You know, we have times, if you look at that schedule, that's showing sort of open study times. You want to trust that your child who's on that campus is going to have increased flexibility and is going to be more independent. And the question is, you know, do they have to be on campus or at school? I believe, Jennifer, in our design, do they have a choice whether they're at the high school or on that college campus?
I apologize, Laws. I was reading one of the.
Questions? Yeah. As
Mhm.
far as the open study times, like on Fridays during senior year and stuff, how are we managing? Like, will students have independence to be able to be on the college campus or at the high school campus?
Yeah, so students have access to everything that a typical Harper College student would have access to. So if they want to go to the tutoring center, the writing center, if they want to do their homework in the lounge, that is theirs to utilize that space.
Yeah, you're going to want to have conversations with your student about the increased flexibility they will have. Specifically, senior year, junior year, they're going to still have a full schedule because they're having a full morning and then coming back and having a full afternoon. Senior year, it's going to be a much more flexible schedule with more open time. And then the other question was around electives. Really, it is very limited. There is not a lot of choice in the design in order to meet all the requirements as we talked about earlier. But yes, some of the requirements students are expected to meet, such as consumer ed and fine arts, do have to be met as part of your high school experience during freshman, sophomore, and junior year. So those are requirements. Now, there might be opportunities to meet those during the summer. We run consumer ed and fine arts programs in the summer. So if a student hasn't met that requirement and they still need to meet that requirement for high school graduation, keep in mind they may have to be taking that during the summer, either after sophomore year or after junior year in order to graduate. So I think that is a great question. I'm glad it was asked. Um, I feel, are we seeing anything else here that we may not have been able to address or that we have not addressed?
I don't think so. These slides have been sent out today, so you all do have access to these. Your student's school counselor also has these slides. And you are also welcome to reach out to me as well. My name is on and my email address is on the Harper College Now website. And so you're welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions also.
Yeah. Um, and there's some questions like, well, we know who else is admitted. On October 22nd, when all the students are notified, you'll be able to talk to your friends to see if your other friends are also doing it. And then you'll have a window to decide, okay, is this really what I want or not, right? Or not want the student. And there are questions about evening classes. It's not part of the design of the program for there to be any evening classes in this specific program. And there's a question, you know what, this is a very good question. I don't know if the counselors have discussed this. How do these courses impact the high school GPAs? Has that been discussed?
I'm
What I
not sure
will
that we
tell you
discussed
is,
it specifically. I mean, I guess it would be the same way that a dual credit course does. That would be my basic
correct,
understanding. So I can't answer that piece, but I would say from our perspective, it's the same way that a dual credit course would.
Hmm.
correct. And it's been a while since I've specifically looked at this, but all of our college classes are weighted the same. So meaning whether you're in a dual credit class, your advanced placement, we weight all of those the same. So um, I would expect that these classes are treated the same as any other dual credit course because ultimately these are simply dual credit courses. The only difference is they're being taught on Harper's campus as opposed to our campus. But they're still a dual credit course. The student is still a high school student and a college student at the same time. So they will be treated the same.
Thing I want to say that we didn't mention is that I think you want to also have a conversation with your student about their level of maturity and being ready to potentially interact with other people, whether it's in classes or just simply being on campus. You know, you're going to be interacting with a variety of folks, and conversations in classes do include mature content. So just what we would see with any of our other college students. But I think it's important, you know, as you're deciding, like I'm a parent myself and I have a sophomore, and I'd be thinking about like, is this something that she's ready for? Is this something that she'd be excited about? Because as Dr. Lopez mentioned, many of the classes may be cohorted where the students are all kept together, but it's very possible, especially in that second year, that senior year, that they would be sort of mixed in with the general population. And in some ways, that would be a really wonderful opportunity. I think the beauty of the program is allowing sort of a gentle on ramp to what college life is like and really providing that structured, scaffolded support to them as they learn. And again, you know, having more freedom and then more freedom so that when they do go to their four-year institution, they're sort of used to what that feels like.
Yeah. There's a couple of quick, and we're going to wrap this up at 7 o'clock. And then what we're going to do is look through questions to make sure that we're adding questions that are general into the FAQ. Um, there's a specific question just, will my students still have to take the ACT? Yes. The ACT, particularly junior year, the state administration is a graduation requirement from high school in the state of Illinois. So you will still be doing that. And then there was another question, what if my son or daughter fails a class? And how will that impact their high school graduation? Um, what I will say is there are still different requirements for high school graduation versus the Associate of Arts degree. And so those may be different. So it could be that they're in a class at the college that is not a class specifically required for high school graduation. So it would depend which that course is. I will say that part of the benefit and feature of this program is that there is a lot of support and resources on both campuses to help intercede and help a student be successful in the program. Any other final questions that you think?
I can answer really quickly. What would class sizes be at Harper College? I mean, on your high school, they'll be the same, you know, in the afternoon, they'll be the same sizes that you're used to. At Harper College, class sizes can range anywhere between about 10 students at the smallest to probably around 32 to 35 students at the most. So that's what you would expect. It's not like you would come in and suddenly be put in these large format lectures with 150 people. You would still have a very small space where you'd be learning with others.
Yeah, and there's a very specific language question about, what if they're advanced in Spanish because they were in a dual language program? Would the class that they take in Spanish would that might be at a lower level, or at
So
a higher level? Yeah.
that's a great question. I'm sorry, I saw that one and neglected to answer it. If a student came in and they had a very, very proficient sense of let's say Spanish, for example, then we would placement test them. And if they were ready for Spanish 3 or they were ready to go straight to Spanish 4, we would place them there. And then those slots that are in the class where the class schedule where you don't need to take 101, then you'd get to choose another elective. Now, it might have to be a limited elective because those classes are meant to fill certain requirements in the degree, probably humanities and fine arts requirements, but we'd be able to give you a menu of other things you could choose from. If you didn't need to take Spanish 101, we'd say, okay, great. Then during that time slot, here's 3 or 4 or 5 other choices that you have. So we would not make you go back to a lower level of Spanish than you need. We would be happy to put you where you belong and then backfill those other opportunities with approved, appropriate electives that would allow you to get all the requirements for your Associate of Arts.
Yeah. Um, I think we're at 7 o'clock, and I think we've responded generally to most categories of questions. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. This again will be shared out following this. If you have questions or for some reason we missed a question, remember you do still have resources. Send an email to Jennifer Greer. Her contact information is there, certainly to me. We'll work to get you an answer. Also, your school buildings, your school counselors will be there as a resource. This is really going to be part of the registration process for next year. So you are already going to be looking at, so what are the options and what are the courses you're signing up for next year? And so we know this is a big decision. It's a great opportunity. But keep in mind, even if you choose not to do it, you're still going to have lots of wonderful opportunities to access early college experiences. It really is a unique experience for those students that are ready and really want to take on this challenge. So with that, thank you everyone so much for being with us and for joining us on this webinar. Thank you so much, Dr. Rewerts, for joining us this morning. You were a great help. And Ms. Greer, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you.